Hello everyone, welcome to the video. My channel name is College Football Frenzy, and today I'm going to be talking about the Oklahoma Sooners 2020 football schedule. I'm going to predict how I think they're going to do record-wise. I'm going to break down each game, and yeah, I'm going to get right into it. I'll talk a little bit about their roster, who's leaving, who's coming in at the start of this video, and I'll go from there. So anyway, getting right into it. You look at their schedule already. You see a couple tough games. You see a stretch towards the middle of the season that might be a little bit tough. There are some games late in the season that look easy, but the middle of the season looks like it might be a little tough. Talent-wise, Oklahoma. They have a lot of guys that are leaving, especially on the offense. Obviously, their two biggest pieces last year, Jalen Hurts at the quarterback position, he's leaving to go to the NFL draft, and CeeDee Lamb at the wide receiver position, he's leaving. So two big losses. Most likely, their quarterback for this upcoming season will be Spencer Rattler or Tanner Mordecai. He could be a sleeper for the job. The defense doesn't look great, but Oklahoma is getting a lot of new weapons in from their good recruiting class on offense overall. So like I said, gonna get into the schedule in just a moment, but please do like and subscribe the video. I would appreciate it. I would appreciate that. But anyway, first game of the season, they start off with Missouri State. Missouri State's an FCS squad. This one will be an easy one, no challenge whatsoever. They win this one. Week 2. Here's an interesting one. Already a kind of exciting game, possibly. It's a home game for Oklahoma. Tennessee last season, they did not have the greatest start. They lost to Georgia State. They lost to BYU, and they got dominated by a lot of good teams such as Florida, Georgia, Alabama early on in the season. And then towards the end of the season, they just turned on the Jets. Their schedule was not very hard, but still, it was a pretty good end of the season in Tennessee. And I believe they're in the top 25 for the ESPN preseason FBI. So Tennessee's definitely improving. They have a pretty good recruiting class, I believe. It's somewhere in the top 20, I think. So I'm excited to see what Tennessee football is like next season, if they actually have the capability to beat a ranked team, especially someone who's good in the SEC. Like maybe they get a win against Florida, or maybe a shocker against Georgia. I want to see if they can do that. But Oklahoma, that will be a tough game for Tennessee. It's in Normandy. I think that helps the Sooners. This one should be interesting. I'll watch it, but I have Oklahoma winning this one. Number 3, bye week. So this is tough. You get a bye week very early on the season, and I know there's a few Big 12 teams. I think Texas as well has a bye week this early on the season, and obviously that's not very favorable because you're going to have to go most of the season now without having another bye week, so that definitely hurts. Looking at the first game off the bye week, it's at Army. That might not be a very easy game. That's another out-of-conference game, similar to Tennessee, that could give Oklahoma a little bit of a challenge. Army, I believe that's a far travel for Oklahoma. It's coming off of a bye week. That's the one good thing for the Sooners, so they're going to have time to rest up, which is good. So I'll take the Sooners here by maybe a couple touchdowns, but Army could definitely give them some trouble. We saw Army give Michigan a ton of trouble last season. Michigan barely won. They nearly lost the game in regulation. They ended up going, I think, to double overtime and winning. It was a crazy game. So, Army definitely, I would say could give Oklahoma some trouble. I don't necessarily think they could win the game, but they could definitely make it a little bit interesting. Baylor. Rematch of last year's Big 12 championship game. I don't think this one's going to be very close, to be honest. It's in Oklahoma. I feel like Oklahoma's a much more talented team. On top of that, Baylor's obviously losing Matt Rule, and his replacement isn't terrible. David Aranda from LSU is not a terrible option, but still, they don't really have a lot of talent, so I don't know if Aranda's going to be great with that. They don't have good recruiting classes at Baylor, so I think that's going to hurt them, not having a great recruiting class, not having great young talent. I'll take Oklahoma in this one. 6. All right, the Red River Showdown between Texas and Oklahoma. This is a neutral site game. It's at the Cotton Bowl Stadium in Dallas, Texas. This one's going to be a big game. Obviously, it's going to be a ranked matchup, probably a top 15 ranked matchup. I think Texas will lose to LSU, so I believe they will have one loss coming into this game, maybe even two. There's a possibility of two because they have to play like teams like Kansas State. I think Oklahoma will be coming in undefeated this. Listen, I think it's going to be a good one. It was last year. It was the year before. The last 2 years, it's been a one possession game. So this is going to be exciting. I definitely think it will be exciting. Texas, though, I feel like might have a slight advantage. I feel like their recruiting class is a little bit better, and I understand a lot of the years Texas is overrated. I do keep that in mind. But this game's always going to be pretty close. And I think with Oklahoma losing those key pieces in this big game, I think Texas is going to get a close win. It won't eliminate Oklahoma from playoff contention, but I think Texas will get the win. So I have them beating Oklahoma just because when on paper, Texas has a lot of talent. They do have a lot of talent. They have a great recruiting class. Sam Ellinger is experienced now, so you have some experienced talent there. And they don't really have, they don't. If they can avoid the injury problem that they had last year, they should be fine. That was one of the reasons why they only went 7-5 because they got really banged up early on the season in games like LSU and Oklahoma State. Those games, so that hurt them. It will be a shootout. Obviously, it's going to be a high-scoring game, I imagine, because the defenses aren't very great, but nobody really cares about those. Everybody's there to see the offenses. But I will take Texas in a close one. At Iowa State. Iowa State gave the Sooners a ton of trouble last year, nearly won the game, only lost by about one, I believe it was 1 point in Normandy. It was a late game in the season. We'll see how it goes this time around, but Iowa State's not an easy place to play at. It's a tough place to play at. It's going to be tough for Oklahoma. I believe Iowa State beat Texas at home last year. So this one might be tough. This is going to be one game in a very tough stretch. I have the Sooners winning this one, but the weather could affect it, stuff like that. It can get cold up there, in Iowa. So we'll see how this one goes. For now, I have Oklahoma, but another game where a team could give Oklahoma trouble. Oklahoma State, big game here. Oklahoma State's going to be probably a top 15 team next year. They've got a great run game with Chuba Hubbard on it, obviously. The defense is not fantastic, but still, again, that's just like every other Big 12 team. So I'm excited to see how this goes. I have Oklahoma winning. It's at home for them. I think that will help. They usually do have Oklahoma State's number in that rivalry, and they probably have a better pass attack overall. So I'll go Oklahoma in this one, but I definitely think it's another game that's going to be close. It could be a Saturday night football matchup. We'll see, but it's going to be close. At TCU. I think they honestly are going to lose this game. I'm not joking. I think they're going to lose this game. TCU usually is a pretty good football team. Last year they digressed quite a lot. They were usually they've been a ranked team. They've been in contention for New Year's Six bowls and stuff like that. Last year they went 5-7. I don't know what happened to them. Big drop off. But I still think this upcoming season they'll be better, win a couple more games. They did beat teams like Texas last year, and they almost beat Baylor. So they gave some good teams a lot of trouble, and they honestly actually played pretty well against Oklahoma as well. It's an away game for Oklahoma. We'll see what happens, but I'm taking TCU to upset Oklahoma there. I think they just, I think it's going to be close, but I'm taking TCU. At West Virginia. This is another tough game. West Virginia is not very good, but that's probably going to be a cold weather game late in the season. It could be a factor for Oklahoma. West Virginia was good a couple years ago. They digressed quite a lot though this past season. So it could be a tough game. I have Oklahoma winning, but West Virginia, they could very well give Oklahoma some trouble. Kansas State. All right, I've Oklahoma winning this one. One of the most certain games on the schedule, in my opinion. I think Oklahoma probably wants revenge after Kansas State beat them last season. I think they'll get it done at home late in the season, so I have them beating Kansas State here. Kansas, that's an automatic game. Kansas is not going to beat Oklahoma. No matter how great of a coach you have, with Les Miles, if you don't have any talent, then it's just not good. The team's not going to be very good. At Texas Tech. Texas Tech is a pretty bad Big 12 team. I think they're definitely on the down. They're definitely regressing right now. So I have Oklahoma winning this game. Overall, I have them at 10-2. I think that's a reasonable record prediction. They definitely could win one of those two games I had them losing. But the midseason stretch, just I feel like they're at least gonna lose one or two of those games. And here I'll show you again: Texas, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, TCU at West Virginia. That's a tough stretch. Even before that, you can do Army through West Virginia. That just looks like a stretch that I feel like Oklahoma is going to struggle with. I feel like they're at least going to lose two games in that stretch. I don't feel like Oklahoma, this upcoming season's team, is going to be as good as it was the past few seasons. Obviously, they had incredible quarterbacks the past few seasons, two Heisman winners and a Heisman runner-up. This upcoming season, Spencer Rattler, he probably will do pretty good. Lincoln Riley has a good system for quarterbacks, but still, I don't think he'll be as good as Jalen Hurts or just Kyler Murray or Baker Mayfield. So I definitely think Oklahoma will regress a little bit. This record would still be enough to make the Big 12 championship game, in my opinion, because I believe the Big 12 is going to be pretty weak. I would guess that they either face rival Oklahoma State or rival Texas. That would be my guess. I don't think it's Baylor. I think Baylor is definitely going to get weaker this upcoming season. So I would say either Texas or Oklahoma State. Oklahoma's very good in the Big 12 championship game. I definitely think they can win it and maybe finish with a record of 11-2. But of course, with that schedule, it's, to other teams like Ohio State and Clemson, they probably would go undefeated with that schedule. With that schedule and two losses, obviously they wouldn't make the playoff going 11-2. That's just obvious. They would make a New Year's Six Bowl if they won a Big 12, obviously. Probably the Cotton Bowl, maybe the Fiesta Bowl, maybe even the Peach Bowl. But I think right now the Sooners, I don't have them in my playoff projection. I just feel like the Big 12 might be the weakest Power 5 conference this upcoming season. That's just my opinion. So anyway, that's it for now, guys. Please make sure to like and subscribe. I will probably be coming out with an Alabama video schedule projection in the next few days, maybe tomorrow. And then after that, I probably will come out with Penn State, Wisconsin, Texas A&M. I'm doing it based on the FBI, so I'm starting with 1 and going down to 25. The preseason FBI for ESPN's already out. I've done Clemson, I've done Ohio State. Make sure to check those videos out. Oklahoma is ranked 3rd in the preseason FBI. I think that's high, and I'm just going to keep going down the list. But yeah, guys, that's it for now. Thank you for joining in, and make sure to like and subscribe, like I said.